Hey, thanks so much for tuning into the Daily Dose for Spiritual Growth. This whole theme of rest and being in His presence, hopefully you are encouraged, inspired as we reflect and be replenished by being in His presence, trusting in Him. Today, I want to talk about the Sabbath. What is the Sabbath? Do we need to continue to honor the Sabbath day and keep it holy? Well, this goes back to the very beginning in Genesis, the creation account. After 6 days, on the seventh day, what did God do? He rested. Now, did that mean that God was tired? No, God is omnipresent. He's omnipotent. He's all powerful, all knowing, everywhere. He is not constrained by our own limitations. But it was a sign that to give to his people. And that's what God gave Moses to give to the Israelites as a sign of trust and to say, work 6 days of the week and then rest on the seventh. God was modeling this whole idea of doing, but then resting, replenishing. And because God gave that example, he gave that command to the Israelites. And it goes on and continue from the Old Testament. And then the author of Hebrews, I want to read a couple verses here. Author of Hebrews describes this a little bit here in Hebrews chapter 4. And if you haven't read the book of Hebrews in a while, or maybe you don't know what it's about, this book is all about Jesus is better. Jesus is better than any high priest. Jesus is better than any angel, any saint, any prophet. Jesus is better. And so the author spent the first 3 chapters talking about how Jesus is better. Now he goes into Hebrews chapter 4, starting in verse 9, says, "So there is a special rest still waiting for the people of God. For all who have entered into God's rest have rested from their labors, just as God did after creating the world. So, verse 11, so let us do our best to enter that rest. But if we disobey God, as the people of Israel did, we will fail." The whole idea of that there is a special rest, what's the author referring to? He's referring to Jesus. You see, the creation account, the Israelites, the Old Testament into the New Testament, everything points to Jesus. And that's what the author of Hebrews is doing right here. He's saying that there is a special rest. You see, we cannot have Sabbath without Jesus. You see, the Sabbath is not about resting perfectly. The Sabbath is all about resting in the one who is perfect. Now, when it comes to when we should have our Sabbath, when should we have our day of rest? When should we honor that day? That's a great question. I've actually had many debates with people, not you, by the way. I don't, maybe it was. But I've had many debates on certain days are better to have the Sabbath, and we have to have our Sabbath be on Saturday. You have to have your Sabbath be on Sunday. You have to, and at the end of the day, what do we need to do? Well, what's our purpose of the Sabbath? The purpose of the Sabbath is to trust, trusting in God and in His provision rather than relying on our own effort. You see, Sabbath is telling God, I'm going to withhold from working. I'm going to withhold from relying on my own abilities, and I'm going to trust that you are my ultimate provider. And that's what God wants us to understand, that He is our ultimate provider, that at the end of the day, everything is His. You see, Sabbath rest is going to the Lord with no expectation other than resting in His presence. That you're not going to Him out of a command, out of a list of things that you want to accomplish or that you want Him to accomplish for you. No, it's about, God, I'm satisfied in you. God, I find such rest and peace in you. And God, I don't need anything else but you. That's what Sabbath is all about. It's not about a certain day of the week, but it's about our heart, our posture, and putting our trust and reliance on the one who is perfect and understanding that we are far from it. That's what honoring Sabbath day is all about. So when is that for you? I don't know. Are you doing it? Maybe you've done it out of the wrong motive, or maybe you've tried to do it where it's a certain day of the week. And if that is true, and if that is what works for you, then choose to do that. At the end of the day, it's not about a certain day of the week. It's about choosing to go to the Lord and having a posture of humility towards God and trusting in His provision. When we choose to do that, that is a special rest. And when we're choosing to do that, He will give us strength, replenishment, and we will taste and see that He is good. Would you choose to do that? Would you find out what would be best for you to honor God, to keep a day set apart that is holy, that is you going to Him, trusting in Him, relying on His provision, His power, His strength, His comfort, His peace. Choose to do that and see what God does when you choose to do that. Hey, thanks so much for tuning in. Make sure to tune tomorrow for the Daily Dose for Spiritual Growth.